Hello, Xanax SCC here. Today I'll be showing you how to make your very first iPhone app. This is going to be a very simple Hello World app, and it should be fun to do, so let's get started. First of all, you're going to need Xcode, Interface Builder, and the iOS simulator. So you can get that with the iOS SDK. So, okay, let's get started. So click on Start Xcode and click Create a new Xcode project. Select View-Based Application and click Choose. You can name it whatever you want, but I'm going to call mine Hello World. Okay, click Save, Start. Okay, as you can see, a new iOS development console has started, and we can start working on our app from here. So let's start by going to the classes and select Hello World View Controller.h. The H stands for header file, and that's just something interesting I thought you'd want to know. So let's start by going to Add Interface. Add Interface, you're gonna have to. This is where we're gonna define our UI text views. UI text views are simply the edit text boxes where you can write words in them, and your app can use those. So let's start by defining an IB outlet, two of them. So Control copy. Okay, so what I just did was create a new UI text field. Okay, I named one of them My Text Field and the other one Copied Text. The reason that there's this star right here in front is because that's saying that you always write a star in front when you create a new object. Since I'm creating new text fields, I put a star in front. Okay, make sure to add that star. Next thing we're going to do is add the IB action. Make sure to add the, so we add that over here. The IB action is essentially a click listener. It listens for when your button gets clicked, and then it can do stuff with the button once it's clicked. It's essentially for hearing button actions. So make sure you add the IB outlet UI text views inside the brackets, these two brackets right here, and add the IB action outside. The name of our IB action button listener is My Text Copy. Okay? So you can save that and close this. Now let's get started working on our screen for the app. So you go to Resources and click on Hello World View Controller.zib. If you click that, Interface Builder should start, and a blank screen will pop up like this. This is your view. This is where we'll be making our app screen and how the app looks like. So let's get started by going to Tools and opening the library. Again, so the library is where you can add all these nifty little widgets like round direct button, which is essentially just a button, text field, which is an edit text box, and all these other things that you can use in your app, like a label, which is just some static text that cannot be edited by the user. Another thing you're going to want that's helpful is to open the inspector by going to Tools and clicking Inspector. The inspector is essentially for looking at properties of these, the properties of some of these different buttons and of your screen, so you're going to need it later. Okay, so let's get started by adding a label. As I said before, a label is essentially just a little bit of static text. It cannot be changed by the user. It's programmatically changed. Fix it however you want it to be, and you can change the text inside the label just by double clicking and changing it to whatever you want. So let's call this one Xanax STC's Hello World. Okay, so we just created that text, that label, and we can just add it to our app. Now let's add the text field. So we can just drag that from here and add a new text field to our app. We can stretch this out as well and just do that to whichever size you want. Let's also add another text field, since we defined two UI text views, remember? UI text fields. And finally, a round direct button. A fancy name for a button in iOS And these are just text fields, which are editable text boxes that you can write words into. So let's write some text inside our button as well. Let's say copy my text. Okay? Let's set it up. Okay, so right now it looks a little bit bland, right? So let's add some colors to our screen. So you're not going to need the library anymore, so you can X that out. Now let's go to that inspector I'd opened earlier. If you click on the screen, just the blank part of the view, and you go to this little thing here, this is the properties attributes. So you can click on that, and here are a bunch of different properties. You can click on background and select other and choose a color. Let's pick a nice light green. Okay? And X that out. Now your background is that. You can do a lot of other stuff here too, and we'll cover that some other time. Another thing you wanted, so we have our screen. It looks pretty nice now. So what we're going to do is now we're going to connect our screen to our code, because we haven't done that yet. So start by clicking on Files Owner and go to the Properties, to the Inspector again. You'll see this blue arrow here, and this is for connections. So what we created we created the UI text fields, right? My text field and copied text. And we also created the button, the IB action, my text copy. So what we're going to do essentially is connect our interface to the code. So let's connect copied text to our UI text field, and my text field also to this. Okay, so we just do that by dragging from this little circle and dragging the line and connecting it. Now let's connect this received action from my text copy to our button. Always remember to click touch up inside. That's the default setting for clicking a button. Okay? So we've connected our interface to our code. See these outlets? That means they can be your app can get words from them, and it's an outlet, right? And received actions is the action that when you click on a button, right? That kind of an action. Okay, so our interface is done, and we can save this and quit Interface Builder. Okay, cool. So now let's get started on the actual coding. Let's go to the Hello World ViewController.m file. Depending on your project name, this will be different, but it's always it'll be your project name ViewController.m. Same thing about the H file. So let's go to the M file. So as you can see, a lot of code here. It's all commented out. I'll explain commenting out some other time. So let's get started. Let's add the actual block of our code. Okay, so what I just did was I linked, remember we defined an IB action in our header file? I added this to our M file, and now what it does is when the button is clicked, it'll call this action, right? Because we linked it inside Interface Builder. So when the button is clicked, copied text was the name of our text field, right? Of the second text field. I'm saying set text, meaning put text inside, as the text inside the original text field. So I'll give you a few seconds just to type this up, and then we'll continue onward. Okay, let's save this, and we can move on. So what you're going to do now is we have our code all written up, right? So let's click Build and Run. What this does is it compiles the code, looks for any errors or anything, and then it runs the app. It'll automatically start the iOS simulator. Okay, so building, pre-compiling, see? Okay, install in the simulator. So here's our app. Okay, let's start by adding. Hey, cool, we have our app working. So let's try this. So what we're gonna do is type in some text in here and click copy my text. Hey, it worked. So as you can see, this is a very simple Hello World app, but it was fun to write. There's a lot more you can do with the iOS platform, and I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. There will be several more coming up, so stay tuned. Thank you.